operating in a very great way. Also, my father was actually a very good friend of another former Vice Chancellor, Hashim Ali, before he passed away, and in the Chicago area, and so I'm a little bit familiar with that. What I wanted to talk about today was a little bit which was not relevant to the Mushaira aspect of this gathering, but more relevant to the alumni aspect of this gathering. And specifically, the topic that was given to me is in terms of contribution, volunteerism, and things of that nature. So I wanted to focus on something which was giving back. But more importantly, I want to say something about giving back to get something back. I think most people don't look at getting something back in return for giving something back. And so I want to focus on a personal perspective about what I get back from giving back. I think when people look at giving, and especially when you think about the Alumni Association and what can you give back to the university, what can you give back to the community. When people think of giving as something which is related to money. And in having volunteered and having worked at some of these organizations, money is definitely an important element of these organizations. Money is, of course, something that continues to pave the way in order for these organizations to do the good work that they're doing. But more importantly, money is actually a secondary thing, in my opinion. I'll give you 3 areas where I thought I got something back which cannot be measured in any small fashion, if you will, in that sense. And so hopefully by listening to my personal perspective, it could encourage you to give back something to the community. And one of the key things in terms of giving back is, like I mentioned, the first part that I want to talk about is simply advice. One of the areas that I have given back is basically talking and advising people in a number of areas, whether it is, a lot of people come to me with their business plans, with their business ideas, with their various things. And in a lot of times I meet with them for a couple of hours and then again on a regular basis to guide them and help them in terms of starting. And usually there is nothing in return. I'm not like getting some money or stock or anything in return for that. But invariably, one of the most satisfying things is when these people come back after 6 months or after a year or after a couple of years and say, remember you told me something about to do a certain way? We did it, and that made all of the difference in our businesses. And in this aspect, each one of you has a talent and has expertise, has experience that you can give back by simply advising people, by simply training people, by simply guiding them, by giving them guidance. And in fact, one of the things that I challenge the Aligarh Muslim University Alumni Association is to give back, but potentially not just doing the scholarship program, which I think is very important, but potentially taking some of the time that when we go back to India, when we go back to Aligarh, when we go back home, we can give that one lecture or one training or something to the students back in Aligarh that could make all of the difference in the lives of 1 or 2 people. The second thing about getting back is also as amazing as that, and even more so in that sense. And that is that when I, having worked in a number of companies, having started a number of companies, I thought I knew about how to manage people very effectively. And I thought I knew all about how to motivate them, how to give them direction, how to guide them, how to do all of those things. Then I take the role of the president of MCA. And unfortunately, if I say something, people don't necessarily do it because they are volunteers. And they don't do it because, not because they don't agree with you, but because they don't have the time or they don't have the same belief in doing those things. In a company, you can pretty much mandate something. If you're the boss, you can say, please do this, I want you to do it, and guess what? They end up doing it regardless because you're paying them, in effect. But managing a volunteer organization is completely different. You can't really push the wet noodle in the same way. If somebody is not willing to do it, and so how do you accomplish how do you move an organization forward when you are actually managing a set of volunteers? And so one of the best things that I got back from working at MCA, if you will, in that sense, is to be able to learn how effectively to manage other people much more effectively than what I was able to do before in the company. And so now what I am, hopefully by this experience at MCA, a better manager who can guide and direct people in order to achieve the end results of my business by being able to motivate them, by being able to guide them, by being able to make sure that their needs are met in a way that is not just simply by mandating something, if you will, in that sense. Saying, I want you to implement this thing, or I want you to do something. Because it's very difficult to push a set of volunteers because they're not motivated by money, they're not motivated by losing a job, they're not motivated by essentially being left out in the open. They're motivated by a different set of things. So what I got back in return, if you will, by giving back is I became a better manager in the sense in my own business, in that sense. So I think that's the second area that I think you can get back. The third area, I think, is even more important and more dear to me these days, especially, that I see, of what I am getting back in return for giving back. And that third area is what I see in my children. And my children, I have 3 children, 12, 11, and 6 years old. And I can see my 2 sons who are 11 and 12 years old have a completely different sense of their compass is set differently than some of the other kids in the community, in that sense. They are more tuned to volunteering and working while everybody else is going out and playing and doing other things, in that sense. If you ever visit MCA, you'll see them volunteering at some of the things, for example, even charging the credit cards or so on. While those are small, menial tasks in that sense, but nevertheless, it keeps them away from all of the other things that they could be doing which may be harmful to them, in that sense. So I never expected this thing. And in fact, there was a care banquet, and by the way, last few years, the Aligarh Muslim University event always conflicted with the care banquet, and I'm glad to see that I'm able to make it here this year because those are on 2 different dates. But in effect, one of the things that happened was the care banquet was a couple of weeks ago, and for about a month before that, my son kept on asking me, did you talk to the folks there? I want to volunteer over there. I said, well, I don't know what you're going to volunteer there for, no, but I want to do whatever is there. And he kept on pushing me, and he kept on pushing me, until I said, okay, I'll figure something out for you. And I finally wrote to the executive director, and I said, can you please give him any tasks that you have in there to keep him busy? And sure enough, both of them went there, and they laid out the prayer mats for the prayer, and they helped in the registration or something like that. But the end result of it, basically, is that they are getting into a mode of essentially being more conscious of their role in society, more conscious of what they can do to help in that sense. A very great example of this thing is also in our community. I want to